Hello and welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar. This is Molly Ashoff and I will be your host for today's webinar. And today our webinar is on virtual field trips. If you would like access to this slideshow, you can go to this goo.gl. It is case sensitive, but this link will give you access to my presentation, and any of the links that are in it will be live. There's my information. If you want to contact me later, if you have questions, feel free to do that. We're going to talk about virtual field trips, but I want you to take a minute to think about the best field trip you ever went on when you were in school. Think about when you were in elementary school. Can you remember where you went? Do you remember the sights and the sounds and the smells? Did you get to go on a field trip when you were in middle school? Or how about high school? Usually, kids have very fond memories of their field trips. And they were probably very actively engaged the whole time. And they probably didn't even realize they were learning. And so nowadays, with budget cuts, sometimes it's really tough to take those kids somewhere on a field trip. But with virtual field trips, now the nice thing is you never have to leave your classroom. You don't have to put gas in the bus. You don't have to get permission slips signed. You don't have to make sure everybody has a lunch. It doesn't take up 2 or 3 days worth of your time in planning and a full day out of the classroom for possibly a couple hours of instruction time. With virtual field trips, you can work right up to the time that it's going to start in your regular class. It isn't disruptive, and you don't lose all that valuable time. When I talk about a virtual field trip, I want to make sure you understand that it's an interactive virtual field trip. And when I say interactive, I mean interactive with another person. You're not just going to a website and clicking on the pictures and getting information. There's actually an expert on the other side that is video conferencing with you, and they're answering your students' questions, or your questions, or students can ask them questions, and the whole time they are engaging your students while offering them information that they're experts in. I want to talk a little bit about the value of virtual field trips in this presentation, how you can make them relevant, where to find them, the technology that you have to have in order to participate in them, and I will share a few favorites of mine. First of all, let's look at what does this look like. I'm going to share with you, this is a promotion video for Google Plus virtual field trips. But I think it's really great. You see how the students are engaged, and it gives a little clips of different virtual field trips that are possible. This one here is through the Seattle Aquarium, and I want you to take note as you watch this, but the lady in the aquarium is actually mic'd, and she's talking to the kids while she's in there showing them the new octopus that has joined them at the Seattle Aquarium. So I'll go ahead and start this.
Today we did a virtual field trip. Schools from across the country were able to join us via a Google Hangout. It's really easy to connect us with the whole wide world.
Do octopuses see in color?
Ah, very good question. Actually, no, they do not. They are colorblind.
And we are, for the first time in history, with this space station, we're leaving Earth. And it is just too good an experience not to share.
You want to say hello to Max? Say hi, Max.
Hi, Max. Hi. There you are. Hi. Wonderful.
Hi, everyone.
I think that video shows some great examples of how easy it is to connect and be a part of some amazing things that happen very, very far from your classroom. And I will tell you, if you watch this, this is live, you can click on here to sign up your classroom. And when I did this, I joined a Google community called Connected Classrooms. And they send out a lot of different of these virtual field trip opportunities. There's one gentleman that I follow that he goes all around the United States and does different ones. I watched one where he talked about the bridges of New York City. And he was actually in his office or home, but he had a partner that was out on the bridge. And so they were seeing live people walking on the bridge and what the bridge looked like very close up. And back in his office, he was also giving great information and facts about the bridges and their structures and how they were built. So did an excellent job. So it's a great resource that I would encourage you to sign up and just check your Google community and see. I have it come into my email so I know when they're doing new and different things. So that led me into the equipment part of the presentation, because they were using a Google Hangout, which is free as long as you have a Google account, and you can do Google Hangouts with anyone anywhere in the world as long as you have internet access. So when we used to have equipment like this, that our distance learning courses they use this equipment for that, and this was very expensive equipment, and a lot of times that equipment is busy, or the elementary doesn't have access to it, or you have to juggle schedules in order to go to the lab or wherever the cart is. So now we can do these virtual field trips with basically something that has a camera and can connect to the internet. So it could be a laptop computer that has a camera. It could even be a iPad or an iPhone that you connect to your projection system so your students can see it large. I would recommend a computer over the iPad. It's just because you can use an external camera like this web camera down here or this one up here. And the reason I would encourage you to use an external web camera like that is because it's easier to get all of the students in the picture. If you're just using the camera on your computer and you have a large class, it's very narrow frame that you get, and you won't probably get all your kids in the picture unless you squeeze them in. And a lot of times your computers that are connected to your projectors don't necessarily have the best angle to get your kids. So when you use an external USB camera, you can move that camera and get a better angle of your students so the presenter can see them better. This here camera here, I have 3 of those that can be checked out at any time that you would like to do a virtual field trip. We can send them on the van and get them to you. They're very easy to use. You just have to plug them in the USB slot on your computer, and if it's a Mac, it usually recognizes it right away, but you might have to go in your preferences and select it like you do on a PC. Now, other ways that we can connect with these content providers or these experts besides Google Hangouts is Skype. Skype in the classroom is new and improved. I've had some schools using it, and they're really impressed with it. They've really been happy with the new Skype in the classroom and the opportunities it allows them to have with their classes. Skype in the classroom is another one. I would Google that and sign up for it, and then they will start sending you alerts or emails about the different activities or the opportunities that they're having that you can participate in. Google Hangouts is kind of the same way. I have access to the license for Zoom, and what I like about Zoom is it's just a little bit better quality than both the Skype and the Google Hangout. And if I am the content provider or the one providing the virtual field trip, it allows me to do more things like share my screen. So I might be sharing a movie or a video clip or a PowerPoint or pictures. So it allows you to do a little bit more with the Zoom. Any of those make it really easy to connect your class with the whole wide world. I want to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities in Nebraska. We have this site called NVIS, or the Nebraska Virtual Instruction Site. This is a site where we have like a warehouse or clearinghouse of all of our distance learning classes. But we also now have a tab called Field Trips. And if you go here and you click on this green button to subscribe for email notifications, then you will get an email when there is a virtual field trip happening that pertains to you. So when you subscribe, you put in there what grade level you teach and what subjects. So if you're an elementary teacher, you won't get alerted to the high school virtual autopsy that maybe is going to happen. That would only go to high school science teachers or those that it pertains to. So that's really nice. Now you do not have to request an account here to subscribe for the email notifications for the virtual field trip offerings. I'm going to go back just a second, and at this site, then when you click on the field trips, it will take you to primarily what we showcase there are Nebraska content providers and a couple others. NASA, Pro Football Hall of Fame, trying to think, a couple national parks, and I will talk about those as I go further into my presentation. Here are some of the Nebraska content providers. Durham Museum in Omaha has a new education specialist, and so they are in the process of kind of changing up their programs, but they have excellent, excellent programs. Homestead National Monument in Beatrice, Nebraska. Great connection for Nebraska history. They do several different programs. A couple that I can think of off the top of my head is about the buffalo. And so for 4th grade Nebraska history, it talks all about the buffalo on the plains and what they meant here in Nebraska. Of course, talks the one on the Homestead Act. There's one about a day in the life of a homesteader, and one about attending a school in the 1800s, 1890 or whatever their school the year is. So all of those are excellent programs. Joslyn Art Museum and Mona both have art-related virtual field trips. And I will say up to that point, along with Agate Fossil Beds out in Harrison, Nebraska, who is a brand new provider, those are all free programs. Morrill Hall and Henry Dorley Zoo do charge now. With Morrill Hall or Elephant Hall, they have amazing programs, and their charge is minimal. And the reason they charge is they mail you out a package or a large crate of supplies, and in that are like fossil impressions and plaster Paris bones and stuff, so the kids can handle these artifacts while they're talking about them. And with Morrill Hall, if you're a Title I school, they do have some monies available until they run out to make that virtual field trip free to Title I schools. So that's an option. Otherwise, Moral Hall 1 is $25. I take that back. It's $35 and the other is $50. And it just depends on the size of the trunk that they send out to you. And Henry Dorley Zoo right now is charging $100 for everyone inside and outside of the state of Nebraska. They would like to find some grant monies in order to bring that cost down to Nebraska schools or provide it free to Nebraska schools, but it just hasn't happened yet. We did see NASA in the little video we watched. NASA has quite an extensive digital learning network, and NASA is always free. And so I highly recommend checking those out. If you click on this link here or this link there, they will take you to their distance learning programs. And what I like about NASA is most all of their space stations offer some of their programs. And so you might be getting it off the coast because it fits into your time, even though they're on Eastern time and you're on Central, but it might be the right combination. So a lot of flexibility there. I will say, however, NASA does fill up really fast, and so you need to plan ahead because usually it's a good 3 to 4 weeks or longer in their busy times. And the busy times are right at the beginning of the school year and then right at the end of the school year. And typically, you need to allow 2 weeks to set up a virtual field trip. That's kind of just common courtesy that we refer to in the DL world, because there are a couple things that need to happen. If it's a paid one, and we'll get into that, they would like the payment and the invoice and all that to happen ahead of time. There needs to be time to do an equipment check or a test call to make sure that everything's going to work smoothly. And so 2 weeks is a really great amount of time to plan ahead for these. All right, Connect to Texas is a content provider out of Texas, but I really like them because they run specials that reduce the price of a virtual field trip, or they provide them free. One thing about when you participate in one that they have run a special on or made it free, it's usually got a specific time that you have to participate. If you go to some of these, like CILC that I'm going to show you next, you usually get to pick your time of the day and when you want it, but they're usually they're paid content providers or paid virtual field trips. So with Connect to Texas, I love they have a great network of providers, and I love how they each month reduce the cost on some or provide them for free, but you have to go with the times that they have. It's a good trade-off. All right, the CILC, Center for Interactive Learning and Collaboration, is a database. You create a free account, you just go in and search. So say I was animal habitats. Maybe I was teaching that to my class and I wanted to get a virtual field trip on that. So I could go in there and search that and find those virtual field trips that pertain to that. And I will say on CILC, some are free, some are paid. And the cost varies from, when they run a special, it could be down to $25, $35. And the virtual autopsy ones, which is one of the most expensive, I believe, is $245. So it just varies. Some of my favorites, Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is free. They do phenomenal ones, and it's not just all about football. They do a lot of character education ones. They do a lot of career ones, like media in sports careers and women in sports careers. So just a whole variety. They do a great job with them, and a lot of times they have Hall of Famers come back and talk to the kids, which is really nice. Another favorite is the Minnesota Zoo, And it became a favorite because for a while the Henry Doorly Zoo did not have an education specialist, so they were not doing virtual field trips. And I found the Minnesota Zoo, and Galen is their education specialist, who is excellent with kids, and he just does a super job. And I believe their price is $50, and some are more, but they have a wide variety of programs for different ages of kids, and I just really enjoy working with them. Another phenomenal place is the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, and they do cost $100, but they excellent and a lot of use of primary resources in their virtual field trips, so I would highly recommend them. International Spy Museum, I don't remember what their cost was. I think that they are a paid content provider, but they do some phenomenal ones. Kids just love them because they talk to them like they're spies and what they're looking for, and just very fun and engaging. Of course, I've already talked about the virtual autopsies. There's 2 different ones, and schools that have participated in them just really, really like them, and the kids like them, and they get to see something they probably wouldn't otherwise get to see. Another way you can use the equipment in the virtual field trip is to connect to an expert. I know at Stewart, their senior English project is after they've read a book, they have to connect to someone outside of their area, even maybe the state, that has to do with the theme of their book, or some have tried to contact the authors or people like that. And then they connect with them over video conferencing, usually, or some have just been phone interviews, but a great way to use the technology. You can connect to environmental scientists. I have a sister who is an environmental scientist. She was in Alaska and in Australia. The Buckle in Kearney and Adams Land and Cattle Company in Broken Bow have started connecting with high school classes. The Buckle is connected with some business classes, and Adams Land and Cattle Company is a global agricultural company, and they've connected with some ag classes. ESU 5 does a science guy. I don't know, they just have guys that do science experiments. We have the veterans come in. A lot of times you can find Santa or Mrs. Santa Claus to come into your classrooms. Also, our local senators, when they are back on their breaks, are more than willing to connect to classrooms. And so that's always something to keep in mind. Along with, in the past, we've had some private music lessons from Manhattan School of Music that have happened over the video conferencing. So not only can they be used for virtual field trips, but also connecting to those experts. I think this technology really, really breaks the walls down, and basically the moons, you can take your kids clear to the moon, so there's no limits of what you can do or where you can go with a virtual field trip. I will say that one of my schools, Battle Creek, is connecting. Their music teacher's brother is teaching music or English in Mexico City, and so they've connected through video conferencing and have made a great connection there, and plan to do that again in the future. So that's exciting. You can just go anywhere you want. Please let me know if you have any questions about virtual field trips, or if you need help finding one or getting one set up, or you want to check out the camera. I'm more than happy to do that.